Okay, so let's just talk about who was that first core group, and what was the style of PWE when it started?
The core group, Dagon Lee, the Gangsters, Louis Matos, Josh Rain, myself. We were the stand-up backing in the beginning. We were the boys that you could always rely on.
Myself, Louis Matos, Eddie Brock, Michael O'Toole, a lot of local guys, basically.
Okay.
I really feel like we were the set originals. Then a couple weeks later, that's when we met up with the FXE kids, Simon, Fanta, Biff, and they really became their own. They became a part of PWE too.
Aaron Epic had told us about some guys that he'd wanted to come in and work. Simon Says, Biff, Bobby Fanta are the most, obviously, you know, the most well-known. Mike Cruz came in around that time. We had guys like James Posh, the American Marvel, and I don't think Jesse Neal actually came up, but he was going to be involved. And then we had like the kids from the Bubba Ray Dudley School, Leva, and Betsy Ruth, and all them. They all came through for a small little cycle. And you know, we had that nice core there. But actually, before that, I'm gonna let George have a little bit of a forum on this. Was that ACW came in and kind of offered some support. We had Eddie come in and do a little angle to help George get over as, you know, the evil, you know, character that he was trying to portray against Mitchell. And we had you know, we had Big Jose come in, and we had who else? We had Mandrake come in and make a Mandrake. Honestly, I think made a really big impact, and he actually saved our butts because we were getting ready to discard the Ultraviolent title because we had no one who really could carry that title the way it needed to be carried. And I think him and Eric Cooper's feud for that was one of the better. Actually, was probably the best Ultraviolent feud we had going on.
That first core group of people started the organization. Then it seemed like there was a FXE group that came second. How did they affect the product?
Well, they brought some bigger names into it. I mean, they brought a lot of different guys in there. I mean, it was good for everybody, in my opinion. It was good for us, too.
You're always supposed to better yourself. So
I mean, there's always two sides to a story, but my side, I think they did pretty good for everybody.
You know, I'll put ourselves over. We're good talent. You know, we were trained the right way. We were trained to respect this business, and not to take away from the PW originals, but a lot of them didn't really know, weren't really properly trained and knew how to work. You know, there's select guys that I like Michael too. I thought he was good. Louis Matos was good. The Gangsters were good. But I think, you know, when you brought the FXC guys, and I personally believe it brought PW to a whole new level. I believe. I think that we, you know, in my opinion, it was like we were the best kept secrets in Florida. No one really wanted to use us, and PWE gave us that opportunity to show our talent, and that's why people always rag on PWE, how it's a shitty promotion. But look at guys that put on the map: Bobby Fonza, myself. No one knew Simon Says was a wrestler until PWE. Everyone thought he was a manager, and he broke out this year.
It lifted it. It gave it, I would say, a little bit more credibility. They're good workers. They worked well together. I knew a couple of them, as a matter of fact, myself personally, because I had gone out to FXE when I first came down here. So guys like the Biff, Bobby Fonta, you know, I knew those guys. I worked out with them. And they work really well. They tell good stories. They sell in the ring. So it just lifted the caliber of wrestling, the storytelling, I think, a little bit more than it had been previously.
I don't think they affected the show really in any way, except just adding, you know, more of a roster. A lot of the way the booking was done was listening to everybody's idea, which is where the problem came, because they pretty much said yes to everything, and that's where they had a lot of problems.
I actually liked it. I mean, I thought it improved the product. I mean, at that point you had well, the two guys that stick out, you know, at least in my mind more than anybody else, was Simon Says and the Biff. You know, both of which, you know, I mean the Biff right now, I believe, is actually being looked at by WWE. You know, and Simon Says, I still think is probably one of the best on the stick in Florida. You know, both of them definitely added to the product. It did not hurt it in the very least.
Early in the history of PW, you had a core roster that you started with.
Right.
How did you come up with that group?
Basically a bunch of friends of mine that didn't get enough work, in my opinion. Like, guys that are really underrated. Some guys that George will argue are overrated. But guys that I felt deserved a shot that didn't get shots because, and quite honest, the state's ran by a few strong-arming promoters. And I just felt like, you know, Zephyr Hills has like a nice batch of like blood that's ran through for wrestling because Joe Bob's was integral to a lot of the stars you see today. There was a period where it really was the only thing you heard about was New School Wrestling or IPW, and that was about the gist of the shows you heard about.
Okay.
Like one entire crew, the FWA crew, if you will, like, and we talked about this extensively, is they were like my crew, who we call the Arbandale crew. It was a bunch of guys that wouldn't be given a shot by anybody else because, like, of their size or because of where they were trained or who they were trained by, you know. And yet these guys were all phenomenal workers. And when I say the Arbandale crew, it consists mostly of myself, Dagan Lee, Michael O'Toole, Josh Rain, you know, for a little while Juvie D while he was still around. But guys like that had, you know, Eddie Brock and Jay Brock, I don't want to forget them. But we all came up together, and like this was kind of an outlet for us. Like, man, you know, look at what we can do. We belong up here with the top indie talent, and eventually, you know, it was great to see Simon and those guys and our guys, you know, working alongside like guys like Jarrell Clark, working alongside guys like Puma, and you know, I think it was just kind of sad that all of us got pushed to the side. For the Believe guys, who I guess you could say had bigger indie names than us, but definitely didn't have the same buzz, and I don't think had the same work ethic.